What is good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today, I wanted to talk about some big reveals that we could be seeing for the Nintendo Switch 2 because I think that there is something brewing that we've got to talk about, and it ties into the domination that we are seeing in one region. It kind of goes back to some of the stuff that I've already said, but I think that since we are getting closer to that Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, I think it's a good time to kind of dive first into what could be happening here from two of my favorite companies out there. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos as soon as they drop, as we got a lot of content going up and live streams as well. Now let's go ahead and jump into this. I want to first start off with the domination that's happening. Now, I kind of talk about this a lot, but I think that it's very important to understand there are still some people who feel that there's PC handhelds or there's these other things that's going to stop the Nintendo Switch 2 from potentially being a success. And I'm here to tell you that is not going to happen. There has never been anything quite like this in the history of Nintendo systems. There's always been something when Nintendo is transferring from one system to another that is eating into or potentially having a big problem with what Nintendo's doing, or simply Nintendo has abandoned the system. Like the Wii to the Wii U, they essentially abandoned it. Sales tanked and nosedived, and by the time the Wii U came out, things were looking really rough. They were looking really rough around the board, and the Nintendo 3DS was just recovering. But with the Nintendo Switch, this is full on almost 100% momentum in almost all regions. Yes, sales have slowed down quite a bit, but I do feel that if you look at right here, when it comes to the Japanese sales, we recently got multiple weeks, and in multiple weeks, it is slathered with Nintendo Switch titles, almost all 30. There's only like 1 week or so where there's like a couple different titles in there, but it's essentially all Nintendo Switch games, and the only PlayStation 5 game that I can count from the software sales December 30th to January 5th is Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake from Square Enix, obviously on the PlayStation 5. That version did number 30, but then also Astrobot. Yeah, I actually see two of them on there. So Astrobot in at number 20, and Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake in at number 30. For the previous week, I think that there is maybe a couple on there. I'm looking through, and there's essentially, one, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. Outside of that, there's nothing else. So for the 2 weeks, it is all Nintendo Switch titles. Pretty much 57 out of the 60, or right up there, if I'm counting correctly, are Nintendo Switch titles. So when I hear people say the momentum is taken by PC handhelds, or that, oh, it could flop like the Wii U, they bring that up, I'm like, no, the Wii U did not have the momentum heading from one system to another, and it looks like it's going to be a sequel to the Nintendo Switch. Japan is sitting there still knowing that another system is coming out, and they're buying games left and right. And it's not like it's, oh, just Japan. We're having that worldwide. People are still buying Nintendo Switch titles. Nintendo Switch titles are still charting high. That tells me that momentum will transfer over. Games are already confirmed to be backwards compatible, so Nintendo will make sure that they let everyone know that you can play your Nintendo Switch 1 games on your Nintendo Switch 2, and you can also play that new software. But I do think that this leads to one massive thing that I want to talk about, and something that we have discussed before, but I think it shows here, especially with Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake sales on the Nintendo Switch specifically, because if you look at that game, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake, physical only in Japan, by itself on the Nintendo Switch, has sold 962,907 units. That is about 700,000 units plus over the physical PlayStation 5 version of the game, not including digital. What does that tell you? Obviously, huge install base for Dragon Quest, huge, I would say, fan base for it, but for an HD 2D remake to have those type of sales, they are definitely looking at all this and gauging what's going to happen with Dragon Quest XII. I do think that that game is going to be a big title that is saved for the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal or presentation, or at some point a Nintendo Direct. There's going to be something with this. Now, I've been trying to look to see if I can find a source or two or somewhere where someone can get me some information on what is happening with Dragon Quest XII. And unfortunately, I have not been able to find anything. But trust me, guys, I'm still looking, and I'll keep on looking until, something else happens. I'll keep looking, but I do feel that we are probably closer to the re-reveal of the game and actually seeing it running than we are not at this point. So I do think that it's coming up very soon here, and the Nintendo Switch 2 will be the driver for this game. I'm almost positive that the Nintendo Switch 2 will be. Now, there's been talk about will they abandon the Nintendo Switch base for the next major Dragon Quest, considering Dragon Quest 11 did incredibly well on Nintendo hardware, and you have an install base of 150 million plus to sell the game to on the Nintendo Switch. It's possible that they have a separate Nintendo Switch version and a Nintendo Switch 2 version, and I bank more on that. I think it's 50-50, but I'm going to bank on it actually being a bit more than that percentage-wise, just because they did do something pretty similar. If you look at it, look at the 3DS and the PlayStation 4 versions of Dragon Quest 11. They made a whole separate version for the Nintendo 3DS, which eventually got put into the Switch version and also the PlayStation 4 and Xbox and PC versions of the games later down the line with Dragon Quest 11S, but originally it was PlayStation 4 and it was the Nintendo 3DS. And the 3DS obviously is nowhere near as powerful as the Nintendo Switch or the PlayStation 4, but it still got its own version of Dragon Quest 11. So I do feel that if they had to make a version specifically for the Nintendo Switch, then also have it on PlayStation 5 and have it on PC or Xbox and of course Nintendo Switch 2, I think that they'd absolutely do that. And I think that's probably the smart thing to do overall. There's a lot of users that are still on the Nintendo Switch. If you're planning on having Dragon Quest 12 out, I would say in the next year or so, the install bases for the newer systems are nowhere near as big as what you have for the Nintendo Switch. So I would expect there at this point to be Dragon Quest 12 for the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2, with a reveal being at a Nintendo Direct or a Nintendo Switch 2 presentation. Square Enix and Nintendo love to team up to have reveals of big Dragon Quest games on newer Nintendo hardware. They've been doing it for quite some time now. Dragon Quest 9 on the Nintendo DS, Dragon Quest 10 on the Nintendo Wii, Dragon Quest 11 on the Nintendo NX, then revealed to be the Nintendo Switch. They've done this multiple generations in a row, so I would expect them to do that here. And you can point at these Nintendo Switch sales in Japan as one, if not the key factor overall. This is very important to how these announcements are even made. And even if you look at what's been happening over the last number of weeks, we've been getting a lot of leaked SKUs and different types of games coming over. A lot of these Japanese developers are all in. They're not going to miss out on the money this time around like they did in the first 2 or 3 years of the Nintendo Switch's life. There's a lot of money to be made, and if this system takes off, which it definitely seems like it's going to take off, you better have your engines, you better have your games and the developers ready to put games out on there, or you will lose out. I think Square Enix lost out. I think Sega and Capcom lost out a bit because they didn't have stuff ready. They did not believe in the Nintendo Switch at first, and it ended up saying, okay, hold up, we got to get stuff out on there. And eventually, yes, we got plenty of games from all the different Japanese developers, but they're definitely going to be there faster and sooner than they were with the Nintendo Switch. So I absolutely expect Dragon Quest 12 to be a major centerpiece of what Nintendo, Square Enix are going to be doing going forward with the Nintendo Directs or presentations. Now, another thing that I want to talk about, because it was recently the 8th anniversary or so, 8th anniversary of the Nintendo Switch presentation. People were talking about that, about Mario Odyssey and ARMS and Splatoon and Octopath Traveler and all the great games that were revealed at that presentation, and how Nintendo kind of took the world by storm with that presentation. There was all sorts of stuff happening there. It was kind of crazy. They showed off the Nintendo Switch in its full, talked about the Joy-Con controllers, talked about the hybrid nature, talked about some of the development, design, and aspects and what they combined from previous systems. They discussed the price, they discussed Nintendo Switch Online, they discussed the worldwide launch, they dropped the new trailer for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, they gave the release date. I mean, it was just a huge presentation that was so well done, a mix between Nintendo Direct and live stage show at E3, and they kind of combined that together, and it was fantastic. I thought it was really good, and I think that they will do something similar, which Andy Robinson, I did have a video on that when it comes to the reveal timing. He did say that, yes, they're going to do something similar to that, to where it's going to be a trailer. Hey, here's the system. And then later there's going to be some type of full reveal or presentation later. So I expect that. But I do think that there's one company, which we've talked about a couple of different times on here. A lot of you guys are asking about this company, and that's Monolith Soft. And we have to get back into it, because I do think out of all the different games that was announced at that 2017 presentation, there was one game that nobody truly felt could be there. and could even launch in that same year, and that was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I had absolutely no idea that that was going to be there, considering we just got Xenoblade Chronicles X at the end of 2015, so nobody's really expecting another Xenoblade game that soon. 2015 to 2017, and they have another one ready, considering Xenoblade Chronicles, the first game, came out in 2010, and it took 5 years before we got Xenoblade Chronicles X, the next one. So everyone was expecting that that was going to be probably 3 years minimum, and probably more like 4 or 5 years before we get the next Xenoblade game. But out of nowhere, here comes Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And not only do they drop a really cool trailer that shows off the game, but then they also say, hey, it's dropping in 2017, and nobody believed it. And honestly, it probably should have been delayed to the next year, considering the stuff that it was missing. But at the same time, it was a monumental feat to get that game out. Now, could Nintendo, when nobody's expecting them, when it comes to a brand new big Monolith Soft game, because we're just getting Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. We got Xenoblade Chronicles 3 years ago now at this point, going on 3 years ago, which is crazy that the game's 3 years old. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed, we got that in 2023, so that's going on 2 years old this year. Could we actually see something from Monolith Soft that close? And I absolutely say yes. We could see. Nintendo loves to use the system reveals or big presentations and trailers to show off what Monolith Soft can do. They did it with the Wii U Direct. Yes, they didn't have it at the E3 presentation when they showed off the system, but they had it at the Wii U Direct when they really needed people to actually see the system. They had it with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I think that it could absolutely happen again here. And if they do, that is going to be one of the most intriguing and craziest reveals, because Monolith Soft is a wizard with Nintendo hardware. They've been able to do things that no other company can do, so much to the point to where other companies outside of Nintendo call them and ask them, how do you actually do what you do and have the work environment, the retention rate, no crunch, no problems with that, good benefits, all the stuff that you would expect when it comes to a good company, a well-oiled machine running. How do you do all that? And they've actually given guidance to many other companies that need that type of help. I think Monolith Soft is incredibly efficient. I think Monolith Soft knows how to get things done. They have multiple teams that are very good at what they do, whether it's helping out with Nintendo, with Splatoon, or Animal Crossing, or The Legend of Zelda, or making their own titles as well. And here's what I think the lowdown happened when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. One, I think that game had been done for quite some time. They were just holding on to it. And then two, I think that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Future Redeemed, those were also done at the same time, and they kind of held on to that DLC overall. They've been working on a game probably since 2021, 2022, and it absolutely could be ready to go when it comes to 2025. So that would be 3 to 4 years overall. They could absolutely have that game ready when no one is expecting it, just like nobody was expecting Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So I think that it's absolutely possible that they blow us away at the next Nintendo Switch presentation. Not saying that it's going to be at the trailer, like they did, like the 2016 trailer where they showed up Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Mario and some other games, Splatoon and all that. Not that one, but at a big presentation, a full reveal, or a big first Nintendo Direct, the first ever Nintendo Direct that we have for the Nintendo Switch 2. I think it definitely could be at one of those. Do not be surprised if Monolith Soft's next project is there. Now, people have talked about what it's going to be or what it can be. Could it be a brand new IP? Could it be a Xenoblade Chronicles 4, a Xeno something else? Or is it going to be a mix of all of that? We're going to have to wait and see. I've discussed it so many times at this point, but I'm just getting excited and hyped for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. But I'm telling you guys, do not be surprised if Nintendo and Monolith Soft have a big new game reveal set up, and it's launching potentially even this year in 2025, or maybe even early 2026. You just never know with Monolith Soft. They always surprise you with things every single generation, dating all the way back to the Wii, heck, even with the Nintendo DS. We never got that game, Bringer, but they've been doing some crazy stuff for a long time, for decades now. Heck, you can go all the way back to Xenogears on the PlayStation 1, and what they've been able to put together is really, really cool. So I do think that that is going to happen. So I wanted to discuss these two major games when it comes to the next Monolith Soft IP, in addition to Dragon Quest 12. I think that these are going to be two of the biggest games for RPG fans on the Nintendo Switch 2, and I think it's going to be pretty crazy when we get these reveals. They're coming. So what do you guys think overall about what we talked about? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.